Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Wednesday webinar. It's David Bailey, the Head of Communications at the NEP, hosting today, and I'm going to be joined by Nick in a second from Microsoft, who's going to take us through some elements of the Ignite conference that has just been recently held. So what I'll remind you, as normal with the NEP, it is being recorded. It will be on the website and the Enabling Centre later this afternoon, so you'll be able to replay this and share with your colleagues again. And that is what an important message for us. We know we get a good attendance live every single week to these, but we do post them so you can then share them again with your colleagues so they can get the benefit out of these as normal. So please do check out the website, and if you have access to the Enabling Centre, you will notice it's been refreshed, so please have a look at that as well. We've got some more details to talk to you about on those in a moment. So Nick, Ignite, it sounds very Microsoft, doesn't it? What is Ignite, and what did you learn that could help us?
Wow, do you know what? It's one of these conferences that you really do need sort of a couple of months to digest what we talk about. It's quite amazing, really. So I'm going to go through a little bit of a PowerPoint deck today, and I've picked out a few things that I think from a policing point of view that you'll really benefit from some of these new amazing functionalities that are coming to 365 in the next couple of months. So if I'm just going to quickly share my screen. Okay, there you go. Bring you back up there. Fabulous. Let me share that one for me, David.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, hopefully you don't hear too much noise in the background. Okay, so first of all, Ignite. So what is Ignite? So let's have a look. So I put a few little slides together just to make it nice and easy for you. You can have a look on the screen as I natter on. So Ignite is one of our main Microsoft conferences. It happens every year. It's taken place, or started in 2019. It used to be called Tech Ed, if you can go back that far. We renamed it to Ignite in 2015, and it was very much driven around those IT professionals and those developers. And it used to be, I say used to be because things have changed. It used to be set in several locations around the world. And then COVID happened. And we looked into this and said, okay, how are we going to do this? How can we get all of the great customers and the great users of our environment? How can we still get them together and, you know, into this sort of environment to learn what we've been doing in Microsoft and what 2021 looks like in 2022. So we went 100% digital in September 2020. And what we did an event that brought in those sort of keynote speakers and gave you information about what we've been doing, what we've achieved, and actually what the next year potentially looks like. And in this event, it's not just about keynote speakers. It's not just about telling you stuff. You've got opportunities to drop into like connection zones and learning areas where you can ask questions to those specialists. So it's very much around an update, and it's also very much around your own learning as well. And the really great thing about Ignite this year, and because of COVID and what happened in September, is we're not actually just driving this towards those developers and those IT professionals as we've done before. This is actually open to everybody. So if you see any advertising, if you want to know a bit more, we will share some links as part of this webinar around the Ignite, what happened in March and all the great things, and also how to join it going on in the future. So if you've got any interest in any of the Microsoft platforms, come along later on in the year to see our next announcement around September time, and register and you know, take the benefit there of this conference. So as I said, I've taken some things out of Ignite that I think may interest you here. It's not going to be death by PowerPoint. There's a few slides here, but I'm also going to drop into my demo tenant to show you a few things that I can. So first of all, within Ignite, we did talk about what's new in Teams meetings. And there's a couple of things here that I've pointed out. One of them is about dynamic view, presenter mode, PowerPoint live in Teams, and live reaction. So let's have a look to see what these things are all about. So dynamic view, it's coming soon. Looking at the roadmap, I will just double check, because I did check at the roadmap last night. What we're talking about dynamic view, it should be landing, it should be released at some point in April. So when we talk about Office 365, we talk about having an evergreen environment. So all this great functionality will land within your Office 365 tenant and will just suddenly appear one day that you've got this new functionality. So you should find sometime in April this dynamic view will land. And as you can see from this little video here that's playing, that you've got different views that you personally can actually adapt around how you want to have your experience within that Teams meeting. The other thing that you have here, let me just click the next one, is presenter mode. I love presenter mode. One thing I find when I'm looking at Death by PowerPoint is sometimes I don't feel very engaged with that presenter. And what presenter mode actually gives us, as you can see here, this lady on the screen, is that you can dynamically change as the presenter of this particular meeting. You can position yourself within that shared content, and there's several views. You can have yourself sort of standing out, so you're in front of that content. You can have it in reporter mode, so you're actually sort of shoulder view. You see this flicking through the different views here, or you can have it side by side, and that's the preference really for your audience, but it is actually controlled by the actual presenter itself.
That's going to be quite an improvement, isn't it, Nick? Because at the moment we're using Teams live events, and we get this very quite limited functionality where I can pop whoever's speaking next to the PowerPoint, or just show the full PowerPoint at the moment. So that should make quite a big difference into the way that people are able to consume these sort of presentations.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, you know, having that presenter in front of that particular content, it just makes it more, you know, as it mentioned here, it's the hand gestures, it's those facial cues. It just feels more real. It's like you're in the room more than it has been in this virtual environment we now live in.
That's ideal. And that'll be in normal Teams meetings. Will that be in the live events as well?
That's a very cool question. I'm not really quite sure, David. Maybe one for me to take away.
Brilliant.
Hopefully you don't hear the background noise here. It's quite noisy. The other thing that to show you here, another one I thought was a really good one to talk about today, is something called PowerPoint Live. It's actually live. It should be live within your tenant now, because I know it's live within my demo tenant, and my demo tenant is sometimes a little bit behind. So I'm actually going to drop into a live demonstration. So hopefully the gremlins don't attack me too much today. But as you can see from the screen here, this little video that's showing, this is actually the presenter view. So as that presenter, this is what they see on the screen. And it's a really nice way of seeing all of your, oh, excuse me, I knew I was going to do that. You can see your notes, you can see the video representation of your audience as well, all on one screen. I know when I present sometimes I can't quite see the notes, and sometimes I've got multiple screens, and sometimes it doesn't feel very sort of natural for me. So let me just drop into my demo tenant. So as we always talk about, well, I always talk about, if you've been seeing any of my demos, we talk about Megan and Nesta. So I'm logged on here as my demo tenant as Megan. I'm just going to join this meeting. So I've called this meeting Fabulous Live PowerPoint Presentation. So I'm just going to drop into the meeting. On my other screen, I'm actually just going to bring Nesta into this meeting as well. So you can actually see the presenter view and also what your actual audience sees as well. So I'm just going to get Nesta to join there. Fabulous. Okay, so to actually bring that presenter view in, you just share PowerPoint like you would today. So I'm just going to open my little share tray. I am going to choose, let me just have a look, it's not that one. I'm just going to browse a second just to make sure, browse my OneDrive, just to make sure that I've definitely got the right presentation for you today. So files for demos, and it's just that one there.
And again, a lot of people don't even know you could actually browse. You'd almost assume you have to have the PowerPoint open. So that's a tip for people as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So this is, as you can see here, this is my presenter view with Megan. If I just move to a slide that I think I have, oh, is that the one? No, oh, I can do that one. There's it. There's some notes there. You can see, as a presenter, I can see my full screen. I could, if I wanted to, have my video feed, but Nesta's not using video today because actually I'm stolen the camera for this live event. But if I just move over to the other screen that I've got here, so this is actually logged on as somebody that's attending this meeting. This is Nesta, and this is what Nesta sees on his screen. So he just sees that PowerPoint slide. But actually, from a presenter point of view, Megan actually sees a lot more, and she can quite easily navigate through. If I can just get that little bar up, which is somewhere around here, which is, oh, there you go. I can present through. The other nice thing as well, and I use this quite frequently, when we just talk about Nesta, and we just bring Nesta back a second. Now, how many times are you listening to a PowerPoint slideshow, and you're going through, and suddenly you've lost a couple of seconds, and you realise actually you just missed the previous slide. And it's really nice here that you can just click back Okay, and you can actually see the previous slide if you've just missed one. So although your presentation is moving forward, you could actually navigate yourself if you wanted to. And it tells me here the presenter's actually on slide 4.
So that's a really useful function for people. It doesn't impact the way that the presenter's carrying on. The presenter doesn't even know that somebody's gone back a slide. Yeah. But it means that if you've missed a bit and you want to go back and refer to it, you've got a question to ask about it, you can flick back and bring that slide up on your own personal view.
Absolutely. I use that quite frequently. I always seem to lose a few seconds sometimes when I'm listening to PowerPoint decks. Right, okay, so that's that. I'm just going to leave that open a second, just in the background. I'm just going to go back to the PowerPoint slide. So that's really powerful, PowerPoint Live in Microsoft Teams, and that's currently available for you as it available now.
I've tested that myself this morning, and that'll really help the L&D teams in particular potentially.
Absolutely brilliant. So what else are we talking about? Okay, now this, unfortunately, I can't show you this in my demo tenant, but I know it's there because I know it's live in my Microsoft tenant. I think, David, did you say that you've got live reaction?
It is in policing as well, yes.
Brilliant. Okay, so what you should find, most of you should already find this because it has sort of landed, it's available now. It's live reactions. So let me just, oh gosh, okay. What you'll find within your Teams screen, you'll see some of the Teams icons here. You used to have just a little hand symbol, and that hand symbol was your hands up, you want to ask a question. And now what you have is a little hand symbol with a little smiley face, and that's your live reactions. I use this quite frequently. Sometimes, if you're having a meeting and you want to sort of congratulate somebody, or you love something as part of that, presentation, rather than actually stopping the actual flow of that meeting, sometimes it's nice to give you, that live reaction, that update with regards to just a little emoji. Say, you understand, you've got it. So that's live reactions. There's that little icon on your taskbar there within that.
And I put a story about that onto the NEP website where you can go and have a quick look at it, and it'll tell you exactly how to use it there. The link is in the chat.
Fabulous. Thank you, David. Okay, next one. So we're going to talk a little bit now about some virtual events and webinars. So we've made some quite large changes to Teams and Teams meetings. We've got something called webinars now, and I'll explain a little bit about it. And there is a little bit of a video here. Unfortunately, I can't show you actually sort of live demo because it's not here quite yet, and we are talking about sort of the March, April time as well. So let me just sort of run through some of these extra functionalities that we've got now within Teams. So we are landing shortly attendee registrations and email confirmations. So I'll show you that in a second. We've also increased the number of people that you can actually have within a Teams meeting, within a webinar, and I'll show you how you can set those up. Rather than 250 in a Microsoft meeting, sorry, in a Teams meeting, it's now 1,000, and you could potentially have up to 20,000 people actually joining your meetings. It just means when I say it's a 20,000 person broadcast there, what that means is that they won't have all the full functionality. It's not 20,000 people that can all have video on. It's not all that sort of the additional functionality that you'd have or you'd expect to see in a standard Teams meeting, but you can run a Teams webinar for up to 20,000 people.
So a bit like a live event then, like
yes.
event is now.
Yeah, I think sometimes live events sometimes scare a few people, don't they? It's quite, you've got to think about it. You've got to think about presenter mode, and it's a little bit more formal. Well, actually, if you want to broadcast out to a large group of people and you're very familiar with Teams meetings, this is just a different button that you click, and it's the same sort of functionality and the way that it runs. So it's not, you haven't got to reskill yourself on live events. And then the third thing here to sort of point out was something called the attendee reporting, which is coming shortly. And this is a really good view of actually, who attends, how long they've attended for, and you can download that. So I'll show you a little bit more here, going through this little slide deck. So attendee registration and email confirmations, what you can do within this sort of webinar functionality is actually to create a nice standard ability to be able to, register and send to your audience. So let me just expand this slightly. I think I can if I did this earlier on. You attendee report. Now I've done that wrong, haven't I? So I've gone too quickly. There you go. I wonder where I was. So although this is going a little bit quick and unfortunately is a little bit small, I'm just going to zoom in when I get to the right page. So just bear with me there. Let me just do zoom in. Oh, it stopped at the wrong. There we go. No. There we go. That's the one I wanted. So let me just zoom in a second Just going to zoom in on that page. It is a little bit blurry, so apologies. But what you'll find in Teams, when you actually start creating meetings, you can create them in the right-hand corner here. You could go into the calendar icon, you could go into channel, but you have got the ability on the right-hand side within your calendar here. And what you've seen now, you've got a new one called the webinar. Okay, so it's not just live events, it's not just schedule a meeting, you've got webinar as well. Let me just get rid of that one a second. And that webinar button then takes you to a registration form, and that registration form, I apologize, I'm flicking all over the place here, I keep losing my space. There we go. I'm going to leave my mouse alone. It's a little bit sensitive today. But as you can see, this little video that's running here, you've got the ability within that webinar button. It takes you to a registration card, and that card you can configure with some of your own personal settings. So you can adapt it, you complete it out, and then you can send it out to your audience, copy the link or whatever that looks like. And then you get your email confirmations back. So it's a really nice way of actually arranging larger meetings with larger audiences of people.
That should save a lot of time. We're just doing one at the moment for the strategic roadshows we're doing, and we've had to create the events, get people to fill in a form, send them a link. So this should save us a lot more time in doing that, make things a lot more efficient.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I like this one as well. This is just makes people's life a lot easier, takes away some of that manualness of of creating and organizing these meetings. Okay, the next one we touched on just now is around the increase of how many people, how many users, how many participants you can have in a meeting. So as I said today, Teams is 250. With this functionality, with this with the sort of webinar functionality, it's 1,000. You do get what we call rich presentation options. So if you think about a Teams meeting, just think of a Teams meeting that you can now increase from 250 to 1,000. It's probably the easiest way to think about it. But when you do want to increase to a larger user base, this is where some of that rich functionality, those options of video and so forth, are sort of removed, just to make sure that those 10,000 people can join and participate within that meeting. We have got a little star here just to indicate we did increase our 10,000 limit, or we have increased our 10,000 limit to 20,000 people within that Teams meeting, and that's been extended to the end of the year because of COVID. So you could potentially have 20,000 people actually joining a meeting, which is really cool.
Well, hopefully policing doesn't need that size of capacity.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. No, absolutely. And there is within these meetings, as it mentions here, there are some moderation controls here about controlling. The last thing you'd want is 20,000 people on a call with everybody trying to talk. So you do have the ability to put some controls around that meeting as well.
Thanks.
Okay, the next one, which I know, David, we talked about this one, didn't we, yesterday? This is one you're very interested in. So we have something called attendee reporting. We are talking about the end of sort of Q1 and Q2. So the Q1, I think, did you mention yesterday that you've actually already got the attendee reporting?
We're testing out the functionality on attendee reporting for normal meetings. It's not tuned in properly at the moment, but there is a capability to download an attendee report from a normal Teams meeting. But I don't think ours is quite there yet.
No, yeah,
it's there.
It's quite limited. I know within a Teams meeting you can have a look at the attendees, and you do that by, I'll just show you here. So in this Teams meeting here that I have with Megan, I'm just going to stop presenting. I could, if I wanted to, just go to show participants, and I could here, these three dots, download the attendance list. It just gives me an Excel spreadsheet. It's not that interesting, but it does tell me who's joined the meeting, which gives me some information. This is quite different. Let me just zoom in on this one. Apologies again, it's a little bit blurry, but you'll see sort of what we're trying to do, or the information that you'll get. You'll see the participants, you'll see whether they've attended, their status, how long they attended for, what time they joined and what time they left. And it's a little bit of a summary here. So this is coming, the end of sort of Q1. So again, looking at our roadmap, we're talking about sort of March, April time again. And where you'll find it is within that Teams meeting. You can see here the attendance. So again, if I just very quickly drop into Megan a second. So we have this meeting here. I'm just going to close this meeting down that we started just now. It should drop back if it thinks about it. Yeah, there you go. Within this meeting, within the calendar, I'll just go to the calendar so you know this one here. If I double clicked on my meeting after the event, what you'll find is that you'll have the attendance information here within that meeting. So somewhere you can always go back to and have a look at that information if you wanted to. Okay, so that's attendee reporting. There are further enhancements that is coming, but that's a little bit later in the year, sort of towards the end of Q2. I mean, when we talk about some of the dates, and we will share with you the Microsoft Roadmap site a little bit later on. It's really good site to have a look at to make sure when things are going to land, because sometimes we do make changes. We do try to get out the functionality when we state what we do, but our roadmap is definitely the place to look to make sure that it's got the latest information for you. Okay, moving on. So what's new within the chat and the collaboration side of Teams? So we've got something called Teams Connect. Do what that's going to be all about. I'll show you that in a second. And we've got some updates to the approval app, and I will do a little live demo on the approvals app as well. So if I just quickly go into Teams Connect. Teams Connect is very much around allowing guests, people outside of your tenant, to have access to your Teams channels. So I think is this one here. This should run a little video. There you go. Let's just run this video just for quickly 20 seconds. You'll see when you create the channel, you have the ability to have that channel as an external based as well. So you can have multi-agencies, people outside your tenant, people within other forces that you might want to bring into those channels. So you can see it there. You can actually, you could chat, you can share documents with them, and you can collaborate nice and safely and securely, co-authoring as it's doing on the screen at the moment. And it's very straightforward for you to do that by actually having that channel as a Teams Connect channel where those guests can be invited.
So that's going to address quite a lot of the issues we're having in terms of how we connect forces that are in partnerships together, those sort of things, but also things like your safeguarding hubs, etc. You'll be able to do a lot more collaboration in the same platform and manage your guests' access a lot easier. Can't wait to see the detail behind that.
Yeah, I checked last night after the conversation we had, David. So at the moment we're talking about June, so a few months off, but hopefully that will speed up. Brilliant.
Well, that's certainly helped people in terms of the strategic direction and how we can start working together across forces in particular. But the local authorities, CPS, all these potential huge opportunities around that to make working even better.
Fabulous, excellent. I think this could be. Oh, that's a little video. Let me just scroll that one. Yeah, okay. So the next one I want to talk about is an update to the approvals app. So I'm just going to drop into my little demo tenant to show you what the approvals app is all about. So let's pick up Megan again. So within Teams, you've got these little three icons here, three little dots, always means something more, something very interesting. And if you click on the three dots and you can search for something called approval. It's if by magic called approvals. There you go. I'm just going to right-hand mouse click on it and pin it so it just stays there. Now what you can do with approvals, and it could be any type of approval that you can think of within your force. For this example, I'm just going to create a little holiday request. So when I talk about approvals, it's something that I want to get approved, and it's going to go to an individual or a list of people. So let me just show you. So Megan's going to do a new approval, and she's going to put on their holiday request. Okay, and she's actually going to send it to her line manager, who's Nesta. Now you can, if you wanted to, as I mentioned, you could have multiple approvals. So say, for example, if she had, if this wasn't a holiday request, you could, if you wanted to, add somebody else within your organization. So just to show you that you can have multiple people. In this case, it's just going to be Nesta. Okay, and what Megan can do is put some additional information around why she wants her holiday, and if she wanted to, she could add some custom responses. So it doesn't have to be just a yes and no. It doesn't have to be some text that Nesta types in himself or just an approval. You could, if you wanted to, do some custom responses here if you wanted to. I'm just going to switch it off, just in the interest of time. You could, if you wanted to, add an attachment. So if you think about if you wanted something signed off, maybe this is expenses, maybe there's lots of processes, I'm sure, within the place that you can gain that approval process. You can add attachments. So if I just click on send, this was a little bit slow for me last night when I was doing it. So hopefully I've got an example that we can fast track. Okay, so you can see here with Megan, she's got 3 approvers that she sent. That's her view. You can see the holiday request. That was a holiday I did last night, and there's some shifts. So you can see her view there of the request. Now, if I just bring over Nesta, okay, who is still on that meeting by himself, so let me just stop that meeting. So if Nesta just goes in and also wants to start using the approvals app, so he just goes into the 3 dots, searches for approvals, and I'm just going to pin it just so it stays there, otherwise they do disappear. You can see here that Nesta's received 3 requests. You can see that the one I was practicing last night has actually been approved. So this is the holiday request from Megan, so that's in his list of received. If Nesta just clicks on it, he can see the request, it's pending, and he can add some comments if he wanted to, and he can reject or approve. Now, if he approves it, if my magic, there we go, just going to move my screen out the way here. So you're back to Megan. I'm just going to see if I can get a quick update, if I can push this one through a little bit quicker in the interest of the demo. What you will find is that Megan's approval will be, there you go. You can see here a little flash message from Teams, and you can see that her holiday request has been approved. And if Megan clicks on it, there's a little bit of an audit trail there to say it's been approved by my Nesta, and that's timestamp there. Now, if he rejected it and put some comments about it, again, this is where Megan would see the information about that approval or that decline.
So this is working without the need for Power Automate. We already use approvals as part of a Power Automate, but this is something that you can just set up a quick, I want you to approve this document before I send it out. There's your little audit trail built straight away.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Brilliant.
We
Excellent.
are running a little light on time, so we'll go to a few questions if that's okay, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll try and recap one, and hopefully we can make some sense out of it. It's always difficult to take the questions from the chat, but can the presenter view on the PowerPoint Live and the participants at the same time? It's written here. I don't know if you can quite read that. So is that, can the presenter view PowerPoint Live as well as what the participants are seeing? I think this is around how you can manage your screens when you are presenting live. Is that, how did I read that?
Sorry, yeah, I'm not really quite sure about that one, David.
No.
So, yeah, so from a presenter live point of view, you think about the person that's actually sharing the content has that special view where they can see the notes and they can see what they want to see to be able to confidently deliver that piece of content.
And there's a little red box around the bit that's being presented.
Yeah,
that's the bit
really
to look for when you're doing it. We use presenting all the time at the moment. I've been experimenting with PowerPoint Live, but I've got the benefit of having 3 screens connected up here, so I can put a screen up and share a screen. It allows me some flexibility, but it's for you to work out the best way. The next question is there a release or a go live date for meeting recap?
The best place to look is that Microsoft roadmap. Let me just share with you this site here. So if you can go into Bing or Google and type in Microsoft roadmap, and it takes you to this little site here. It's a really great little search engine. This is where I go, because although I work for Microsoft and I get lots of information, this is like the one truth. This is the date that we stick by. If it says, March, keep an eye on it. If you haven't got it, it could change to April. We try not to change them. If we've got a release date for March, then more than likely we do try and hit those dates. But this is the go-to place to check when that technology is going to land.
Thank you. There's a question there from Tony. I don't know if there was a bit of background noise coming in about a presenter on mute, but it does remind me that when you're doing a meeting, you can set those attendees and presenter modes in a normal team meeting, which can be really powerful. A couple of weeks ago, we held the AppCom, the Associated Police Communicators Week of Learning, and we were using that functionality throughout the meeting. We had over 80 to 120 people every single hour of the day doing training, so we were using that functionality really well to control the way that meetings go on. And we will do a quick video recap and hints and tips on how to use some of those tools on Teams, because we're getting new users all the time, so we'll cover that one. And then we've got a question there about the Connect element. So will that function require federation or simple invites? Nick, you got enough information on that at the moment?
Yeah, do you know, it's a really good question. What I've read so far is no, but let's take that one away just to make sure we're 100% that it doesn't need any federation or guest services enabled. Yeah. It's quite new. It's landing soon, but we can take that one away and get that one answered just to make sure it's 100%.
And we will do a Pacific one around that when it lands, because that's going to be quite key to the national communities who are doing lots of work. You know, the ways that forces could do it, that could again really add some massive value. So we'll do a bit of work on that when it does come in, and we can share that with you again. There's 5 more questions, so we're going to quickly rattle through them. So first one is, can approvals be sent to an organisation or an individual? It can be sent to a team of people, can't it, Nick?
That's a really good question. I've not actually tested that myself, to be quite honest with you, David. I thought it was an individual. Maybe quickly let's have a quick look. Let's have a quick look. So when we talk about individual names, if there was a group, let's have a look to see if there's any groups. I have got some groups. I think it's individuals.
Right. You can in Power Automate, you can send it to a group, but maybe not just in the standalone element. There's a question there about, is facial recognition coming towards Stream at any point?
Good question. I need to take that one away.
No problem. Have a look on the roadmap yourselves again. I'll be there. A question here about the approval process. Question: if you attach a document to the approval request, can the document be attached, be edited and returned for the approval again? So does that allow that editing?
It depends really who's got access to that file. So if you're sending that, if you're adding an attachment here to your OneDrive, you're giving that permission to that person. So it depends how you want to control that document in OneDrive. You could put edit access on it, or you could lock it down. So say, for example, I gave Nesta, bad example with Nesta actually, because he's already got access to this file anyway, because he's part of that team. So it really does depend what permissions you want to allocate to those OneDrive files that you're selecting there.
No problem. And another one here, comment from Jamie that they're using PowerPoint Live in L&D, and it allows them to do joint delivery and the take control button if the other trainer wants to take control of the presenter view. So again, giving that flexibility to move things. So a few less Chris Whitty moments when you're using PowerPoint Live compared to doing it yourself. But again, you can do that in a number of different functions. There's a question there which is a little bit odd. Does Microsoft have a solution for legal time accounting tool? There is a tool in the template you showed me about monitoring how long you're spending on each project, isn't there, in the template section?
Yeah, that's quite an interesting one, actually. Yeah, maybe we can take it says anonymous there, so we can find out who actually asked that question to actually do a follow-up, David, to see if we can sort of put a solution or put some guidance around which applications are best within 365.
Okay, well, we've run over time as we do, and there was a lot in there, Nick, so thank you so much for covering that. Next week's a slightly different webinar as well. We are at the end of the financial year, so technically as a program we end up this year and we start the next year. So what we want to do is just have a session where we'll bring together what the NEP is going to be focused on over the next 12 months, so that you're fully aware in program teams, in business units, in forces, to understand what's going to happen. Now this will be a very light touch compared to what we're doing tomorrow, where we've got some of the senior stakeholders in each force coming along to a roadshow where we're going to go through the detail behind that to move that forward. So please come along next week. We are 19 forces are currently at full rollout position, and just to give you an idea, 131,000 members of policing used Microsoft Teams in February, which is huge. That's half of the police headcount. That number is set to grow massively over the next couple of months, and in fact, hopefully this week or so. But we want to be very clear about what you can expect from the NEP and what we need you in forces to be getting out of us over the next 12 months. So that's what we're going to cover next week. It'll just be again a 25-minute input to give you an idea of what's going on, so you can get the best value out of our team here at the NEP as we move it forward and Nick's support. So thanks again for joining us this week. Hopefully see you again soon, and thanks again, Nick, for a really great input.
No worries. Thank you, David.